Good evening and welcome to NerdsAtNite Gaming. I'm Kid Thunder DJ, joined by
Power 47.
And as we said earlier in the week on the podcast, we're going to have a couple of guests in here with us over the show to talk about their various art forms and where you can find them and what they offer. So just going to go around to the table starting from my left and let them introduce themselves and what they do.
I'm Dylan Kifer. I'm the voice for my wife here, Vanessa. She has come down and with a little cold of sorts and can't really speak good for us.
All right.
Not really.
I'm Harley.
And what do you do and what can we find from you?
I am a photographer and I do everything from cosplay to weddings. You can find me on Facebook at Divine XO Photography or on Instagram at The Coolest Dork You Know.
All right.
And I am Chari VonDilarizz. I write fan fiction, and you can find me on Facebook at Daughters of Crystal Tokyo, Chari VonDilarizz fan fiction, and on Twitter at C VonDilarizz.
All right. And did you have a Facebook or Twitter page, Vanessa?
Yes, Vanessa's best page to reach her at is patreon.com/Vanessa Kifer. VANESSAKIFER.
All right. Okay, so obviously you guys are going to be joining us for the show itself, and we'll get to a little bit later. We'll let each of you take a couple minutes and kind of go over the different types of art in more detail and what you're working on and rates for anything specific if you have them, and we'll go from there. So I know I gave you guys a show sheet with kind of how I was going to block everything out. A couple of big things have happened that I had down at the bottom. I'm going to go ahead and do them first just to get them out of the way. On the show earlier this week, I talked a lot about what's going on at TNA Wrestling and the mess there. And I'd also mentioned an idea for the cruiserweights, both of which have come true. The idea for the cruiserweights was to move them off of Raw and to put them onto their own show, ideally on the WWE Network. Well, I believe yesterday it was announced, or on all the dirt sheet sites, that there's going to be a new network show airing weekly called 205, because that's the weight limit for the cruiserweights, that's going to feature all the cruiserweight competitors. So hopefully that'll solve the problem of not knowing how to use them. And then TNA Wrestling, the big news I had mentioned there was everything was shaping up for them to force Billy Corgan out, which happened. The president company of the Fight Network has entered into what they call a credit agreement with TNA to fund them, and they're going to pay all their outstanding debts, which include the debts to him, and then allow Dixie Carter to continue running. This is funny for a couple of reasons. One, probably the best mind to actually come up with anything entertaining in that company is going to be gone. Two, he fired back on Twitter saying they still haven't paid me yet. I still have the legal option to force them to give me a percentage of the company, and a lot of back and forth with that. And three, if he is gone, there's really not anybody left that TNA hasn't burned bridges with creative enough to really come in and help them. So for people who are wrestling fans and know how bad of a name this is, don't be surprised if Vince Russo winds up working for them again. So I wanted to get those updates out of the way because it's real quick. That's the wrestling stuff, and I know that there's a lot of people who tune in for that, and I wanted to basically also get a chance to say I was right with how they should have handled both those things or what was going to happen. So now we'll go back and kind of follow the sheet.
He means that I told you so.
Yes, I do, because I said they're going to screw this whole deal up. They should have taken the money, honestly, for whoever wanted the video library and just been done with it, because you're not gonna salvage that company. It was like when WCW went under in the 2000s. You can't take what's already there and hit the reset button and make it better. You have to start over. And nobody's going to put that much money into a company to start them over with new talent, new branding, a new name, because there's not enough market share out there. Anyway,
yeah.
So we'll move back into the gaming news. Obviously, the biggest release, I think, this week across all platforms was the Skyrim remaster.
Definitely.
So, the ladies in the room, if your husband plays the game like I do, you will not see us for a while.
No, definitely not.
Right.
Excuse me?
Skyrim.
I play Skyrim also.
Well, then we won't see you.
Uh-huh.
Right. Nothing wrong with that. Well, I don't know. If you have work to do, like, I have to go to work every day, and I'm like, I could, not be here right now, and nobody would notice.
People would notice. People notice when I'm gone.
Yeah, you have a job that matters. I don't. I literally did nothing today and got paid for it. It's great.
You probably shouldn't say that on air.
I should. Nobody that works. The fact that we have nothing to do this week has been enjoyed by everyone with all of the major merger stuff at my job. Everyone has eased off about our boss's boss is like, hey, if you guys can take a breather with everything we've got going on, everything we got coming up, do it. Because they don't want anybody taking time off, but they also don't want any of us about to, pull our hair out. Anyway, just a little overrun. I have obviously been playing Skyrim. It is a lot better looking. A lot of the remaster for graphics is environmental elements, lighting, shadows. The actual geographical effects are a lot more developed and rendered. You don't have that blurry effect when you get closer to things where you can tell they're really static to the environment. That's a big improvement, actually. Most of the character models really have remained unchanged. The dragons look better. They actually seem to interact better with the environment. They're not when you're up close, they're not this blob of color against the screen. Like I'm very early in the game, so you have that first dragon fight at the watchtower where you figure out you're a dragonborn. And the way the light would come off of them in those, what they call God streaks, is just way better looking than it was in the PS3, Xbox 360 era. So
that's pretty cool. But hasn't there been some issue going around about the sound files being compressed now in this version, and it's kind of sounding terrible in comparison? Have you noticed any of that?
It doesn't sound any different, and most of the people complaining about that are probably the people who have the $200 headphones.
Like the super audio files?
Right. I'm just like, really? Half the game is the same monotonous drum beat or the sound of leveling up or people screaming. What's so special
in his gameplay?
What's so special about any of that where you need it to sound amazing?
Right.
I like the fact that you can go from point A to point B without it glitching. That's a big deal. All right. So moving on from Skyrim, another interesting thing for people who don't like having a life: Diablo 3.
Oh man, that was some crack.
It was, and it still is. I mean, every now and then after an update, the Blizzard login will pop up on my screen. I'll be like,
he needs the kick.
Right. It's like, should I play or should I be productive today? What? You're giving me the look like, I'm not productive anyway, and I'm usually not, but,
Sorry.
Anyway.
Yes.
Totally not sarcastic cough.
Anyway, the merch site for Blizzard had put out some content art that makes it appear like we're going to finally get a necromancer class in Diablo 3.
That'd be pretty cool.
And this wouldn't be the first major update to the game. They've actually done a lot to keep the game playable and fresh. They've got season modes now, as they call it, where the hero you build up earns a lot of new and unique gear, but it's only usable in that season. So and you have to start the character over every season. So it's a great way to keep you coming back and making it worth the gameplay again, instead of just adding more Paragon levels to a character who isn't going to get any stronger.
Yeah.
So that was a big thing. And again, another strike on their stories is we're finally starting to see some of the Sombra art through Blizzard. And that's for Overwatch, which
Sombra.
You're still big into.
Kind of. I haven't played it in a week or two, I think, but
Oop. Sorry about that. I brought up the story on my page and decided to start playing audio.
Gotta love those.
Yeah.
But apparently Sombra concept art was leaked. It's unsure if it's official or not, or if it was a fake leak. It seems pretty likely that it was real.
It was on Blizzard's merchandise site. I mean, that's all through Blizzard, so somebody who put it there either put the wrong file there or something, but that's at least concept art. So now, that's concept art.
I was going to say, have you seen it?
Yeah, I've got it up. It was on the link.
I've seen it through already being spread around. I'm not really a fan of the hairstyle they have going for her, where she's got this half-shaven head look, where the other side is a full ponytail length thing going under her mid-back. It just looks dumb.
That's the popular thing because of that Amber Rose chick was doing it in movies, and now that's turned up in everybody. Just like after the Hunger Games got popular, every game had to have a bow.
Right.
It's the same thing. It's that connecting link to something popular in reality that they have to put in everything mainstream. But you're still big into Overwatch, right, Brandon?
More or less.
Yeah, I got rid of my copy. I can't.
I still have it, and I keep it around for multiplayer.
Yeah.
Beyond the look, I still am pretty excited to see how she plays, though. Because, I mean, we don't know anything about how she technically plays, but we know she's this really, very much of a spy character.
Yeah.
The cloaks, shields, and stuff, hacker, things like that. So it'll be interesting to see how they convert that into gameplay.
Well, you boil the characters down into their main roles, and that's really all you get. So it depends on what role she falls into. If she's going to be a support role, most of her stuff's going to be going to amping up everybody else. So, which can work.
I probably being a hacker, I actually kind of imagine her being more of a saboteur class.
Who knows?
Where she affects enemy stats.
And that hair, at least it looks better on her than it does my mother, who's almost 50, who tried to do that with her hair.
Oh, God. Yeah, I give that credit.
Hey, gotta try something sometime.
Oh, my God, it looks awful.
Anybody else here played Overwatch? I know you don't play any games, Chari. Being nice.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Can't say that I have.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's just a simple first-person shooter. I mean, it's like if you played Unreal Tournament back in the days, or Quake Arena. I mean, it's all the same thing. It's just, interesting characters. And I love it that the game got over with absolutely no story, because there is no story to it.
Yeah, that's what they've already said, is like their story is done through their shorts they make, which is like these little mini animated movies that they post online.
Be the definition of a short, yes.
Yes, you know what I mean.
Not to be confused with the bus. Anyway.
But besides that, no, there's really not much as far as like story content that goes in the game. It's just multiplayer action.
Yeah, interesting. Anyway, so looking around for stuff to talk about, because I wanted to have not just a more complete show, and I didn't want to push this off too far, because a little bit of plug. At least two of us here are going to be at the 20-man show. Obviously, we are. Vanessa's going to be there as well with her art. So, we'll get into that in a little more detail in that section. But so I wanted to make sure we got this out in time for that, so that we can hopefully get some more people in to take a look, especially at Vanessa's table. I mean, her art is really beautiful, and I think you guys will like it a lot. And yes, I do plan to buy some of it. Just have to, have the money thing.
Thank you.
As I like to say, we're an anti-profit organization at NerdsAtNite.
Have the, the funds.
Right. Anyway.
Can't have fun without the funds.
Yes, and speaking of the toy show and retro stuff, I was looking around. I have nothing better to do at my job other than find stuff to talk about on here. And I was looking around at some of the old retro games, and I came across Looper. It's just one of those random clickbait sites out there, but some of their lists are pretty interesting. One of them was 20-something, some odd games. I think they said 21 or 22 games they got in here. 21. Games that were great games that no one played. And I, unfortunately, being as big into games as I am, I've probably played at least 2/3 of this list. So my pick that wasn't on the list was Jade Cocoon for PS1.
Yeah. I played the sequel to it on PS2 for a bit.
Which was a little bit different. They changed a lot of the core elements, even though the concept was still the same.
Yeah.
The biggest things about Jade Cocoon is it came out right at the post-bubble pop, as I like to say, of like the Pokemon and Monster Rancher era and Digimon and all that.
Yeah.
But its take was you found these animals, and when you made them better by merging them, and it had an algorithm where your merges would be like literal mixes of these creatures. So a lot of them were kind of insect based. There was some other beast based. So it could have the coloring and wings of one creature and a whole different body of another, as well as into different moves and stuff. And it was a better story to me. It was centered around saving your village in the middle of the woods, not just trying to earn badges, but way better game than, in my opinion, the Pokemon game. So
that was pretty cool.
If anybody had time to think about this, what game do you really enjoy playing that no one else ever hears of, that when you mention it, people give you a look? Anybody got anything?
Legend of Dragoon and the Legaia series.
Yeah. The JRPGs have their crowd, and that's it.
Yeah. They have the diamond in the rough kind of status.
I'm looking through the list right now, and I did play Beyond Good and Evil.
A lot of people played that one.
Yeah, I don't really understand why that's on this list, honestly.
Because it was, again, like the JRPGs, like Fire was just talking about, there's games that appeal to a very specific group of people, and that's it. Like Grim Fandango is one that was that way in this list. I'm not going to mention everyone, but I'm talking about the ones I thought were the better ones in this list, because some of them I didn't agree with, like Kingdom of Aldemar. I'm like, it was alright. Earthbound is another one. But that one's gotten like a lot of notoriety because of the fact that whenever you see it now in a store, it's $200.
Right.
And people go, why is that game $200?
I was like, it's a popular game that no one played. Would be a
Have you
more
guys played
accurate title, I
Life is
think.
Strange?
That's another one that I heard a lot of people talking about. I'm like, never heard of it.
I
Oh
played
my God.
PsyOps.
Relatively
but-
new.
Yeah,
Didn't have
and
that Chloe girl?
Yes.
It's by,
Yeah.
it's by Square Enix, and it's really good.
Isn't it like another point-and-click adventure, like Telltale Games, kind of?
That's it,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of like the fandom about that around that game. I've seen that around a lot. Never played it though.
It's very good. You get a real emotional attachment to the characters.
Yeah, it's got great character development.
Cool.
But it does get really dark and kind of effed up.
Sounds like Heavy Rain. Heavy Rain was that way.
Heavy Rain was good.
When you really break down that story and you start getting into what's really going on, you know, like the game's been out for years, so I'm not really spoiling anything. You wind up playing as 5 different people. One of the people you're playing as is the bad guy of the game, and you've got to piece it together on your own. And I admit, the first time I played through it, I can usually figure that stuff out pretty quick. Games are not subtle.
Oh yeah.
And it took a little while through, and I'd actually had it pegged the other way. That I was wrong at first. I thought it was the guy you play as the most in the game who wound up, which I would have probably liked better, because in the end it was a little bit of a predictable ending, but still, it was still very well done.
You think you overthought it then?
But speaking of older games that people didn't get into, I for the Super Nintendo, Super Mario RPG.
That is, yeah. And what's sad is that from top to bottom was probably one of the best role-playing games on that system.
Oh, yeah.
Without a doubt.
And it's like, that's one of the titles I just picked up for this show, actually. I had a friend who wanted a bunch of my rare Sega games, so I traded them out for him so that that way he didn't have to worry about getting the cash together. And yeah, that was one of them that came over on the lot that I made sure worked and everything, because that's one everybody always asked for. And it was really fun. It was really complicated, too. You couldn't, you had to time attacks just right in some points, because, just your default attacks wouldn't work.
Paper Mario style?
Pretty
Actually,
much.
Paper Mario was the sequel, more or less, to RPG.
Yeah.
See, I don't agree with Dark Cloud being on this list. A lot of people were, where, in my opinion, is if the game got a sequel, then it probably wasn't a game that, nobody played.
Right.
Max Payne 2, that was just because it was more of the same, so you really didn't need to play it. The story didn't hold up, and they didn't change the gameplay enough, so... But one that Chari pointed out that's one of my favorite games that, nobody's ever heard of, and this is for us 90s kids, Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines.
Yes.
That game was amazing. And it still is. I mean, that game's still $20 on Steam for a reason. You have to go to the player community for it to get it to be playable, because it was the company that was putting it out was dying, so they rushed it out to try to save their company, and it didn't quite work for them. So it wasn't the most technically sound game, but...
The community saved it then?
Oh yeah, the community patches make that game as good as anything out now.
Cool.
Like, you could take it, especially against the era of, like, you put it up against any DS game or any iPhone or whatever game, graphics-wise, if that matters to you, and it blows all them out of the water. It could still hold up if they ported it to console, it could hold up as an online offering very easily, because you had consequence for dialogue, you had multiple endings, you could, especially with the community patch, the standard version, they took some of it out, but with the community patch, you could do a lot of customization of your character, because it was based on the book and paper role-playing game Vampire the Masquerade. So, having all of that, they did their best to really... And it's actually a sequel, but the first one they made was a top-down view, very linear game that really didn't do much to capture the feel. So, move on and see if there's any other good ones in this list.
I saw Brutal Legend, which I enjoyed. It
I was
was
gonna say,
voiced by Jack Black.
Yeah, there was a lot of games on that list. I flipped through it pretty quickly the other day. It was like that were very well known, even if they weren't played that much.
Yeah, a lot of
It's
games. A lot of games on here got a lot of press, like Deadly Premonition or whatever they called it. Or no, wait, I'm thinking of Fahrenheit. But Deadly Premonition was one that got a lot of buzz when it came out. Just nobody played it.
Yeah.
Until it became a PS Plus game.
Did it?
Viking, nobody cared about. That one nobody did care about, and it wasn't that great of a game, so... But, I mean, if you go to Looper, you can find the list, but I think we're running out of decent games on this list. Like,
Best I can see on this, probably a lot of these were just cult classics. Yeah, they had a cult following, but that's about it. Like Okami was on the list.
Yeah.
And that was one of those games that was designed to be pretty, and it ended up just having a few people who were really big into it, and then that's about it.
Right, and then nobody else cared. Which was funny because usually the reason why I thought this was an interesting topic is usually those are the games that wind up being worth a lot. Because people find out about them second and third hand and eventually want to come back and find them, and they're gone, and they're not in stores anymore. So,
Right.
that's the interesting part here. So, yeah, but some good choices there. And I actually thought of one, Kari, that you play that nobody's ever heard of when you tell them it exists, and that's your Sailor Moon arcade game.
That's true. Most people don't realize that there actually was a Sailor Moon arcade game.
Right. And yeah, that was part of the reason why we got the exact setup we got for our home arcade, is so you could say you have it and never play it.
I have played it.
Mm-hmm.
I have played it.
Mm-hmm. And actually, there was a Super Nintendo one that was released.
That's
in
not
Europe,
untrue.
and I think got it either wasn't Regency locked or got a very limited release in America. But I'm not paying the $200 to find out.
Aw, why not?
Because it's another game you'll sit on the shelf and never play. It's true. It's true. Anyway, before I'm murdered. Alright, so that was just kind of
Live
some
on
of the...
air.
Yeah. That'll get us ratings. Hey, it's Exhibit A and our best show ever. For those who haven't figured it out, Chari is my wife. So she's put up with me the longest out of anyone in this room, save for the co-host, but he's my brother, so I have dominion over him.
Actually, I think technically she has. Because you guys were friends before I was born, right?
No.
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 We were...
3.
Yep.
So, yeah.
So you have
Okay.
a very small window ahead of me
Ah.
that you don't remember, so...
Right. So it doesn't count. Anyway.
But he remembers. That's what counts.
Right. Yes, I remember all the aggravation you caused me. So anyway, before we get into our last couple topics, because it's just movie stuff, which we can do the movie stuff first, or we can go around and talk about your guys' art first. What do you want to do?
Up to you, host.
All right. Well, then we'll do the movie section real quick, because there's nothing here that's going to take very long, and then we'll finish up with where you guys can be found and what anything big you got coming up. So, how many people have actually seen any movies from the summer till now in theaters? We've saw one.
We saw one.
We saw Magnificent Seven.
7.
It's kind of
I
tricky
was
to
gonna
do
say,
with
you guys saw Deadpool too, but
Oh yeah,
when
no,
that
that
one?
wasn't last summer.
That was actually on Valentine's
yeah.
Day when it came
Yeah.
out.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, that was a little bit farther back,
earlier,
but yeah, still this year.
I watched what was the last Marvel movie that came out? Was
Civil
it-
War, I think.
No. Then it wasn't that. Was there an X-Men one that came out? Or was
Oh yeah,
it-
that wasn't Marvel. I don't. That's
Not
well. I
Marvel.
mean, it's Marvel Comics,
Apocalypse?
but yeah, X-Men Apocalypse.
Yeah, I think that's the last one I saw in the movie theater.
The last movie I saw in the theater was Ghostbusters.
the new one.
I loved it. It's amazing.
Well, that's
It's
like
one
I
of
saw
my
in theaters
favorite
with
movies
Ruby.
I've
want to
ever
see
seen.
it. I really want
Right.
to see it.
That's true. Last one he saw in theaters was Ruby Volume 3.
Right. I mean,
Right.
I
that's
was
not
there
So-
with him.
which is sad because we also went to another special anime screening. We went to the Princess Mononoke one they were doing.
Mhm.
So
Oh yeah, that was great.
That's sad when those things drew our attention more than. And this is the point I'm making: is this has not been a great summer for movies.
No.
A lot of movies that were supposed to be surefire in the bag hits weren't. You mentioned the Ghostbusters movie that way underperformed.
That tanked.
Yeah.
That's because of a bunch of man babies, but it was a great movie.
Yeah, I can't really dispute that. Yes, there was the man bitching about it, but there was just as many people who went in trying to give it an equal chance who went, it's just not funny. And the biggest complaint was everybody was trying to be Venkman. Like,
No, I'm telling you that movie was amazing.
maybe,
Push
but
your buttons.
right. But I mean, the whole reason I bring that up is we're getting into the fall, and the fall is usually where, especially in later fall, you start getting the holiday movies, and then the last gasp of blockbuster movies before. And it's changing a little bit because now we're seeing like Star Wars movies aimed for December and stuff. But this was where, things that weren't good enough to be summer blockbusters go to die, and then you'll have one big blockbuster movie in that time that'll expect to make all the money. And this year, it's lining up to be Doctor Strange. And with the way, especially comic book movies have trended this summer and early fall, does it have a chance to do good? Do you guys think?
From what I've seen, a lot of my friends, on Facebook are super excited about it. Actually, a bunch of people I know are going tonight to see it. I'm hoping that it does well. I'm excited to see it myself and to see what Benedict Cumberbatch, what he came up with being a superhero.
What's funny is that guy hasn't, here as of late, been in a really successful movie, but he's still got a huge following, which is...
He does. He's on Sherlock.
He is. Yeah. But, that's the funny thing is, when he did the Man from U.N.C.L.E., nobody came, and yet it was supposed to do good just on his name. There's the one he did before that was supposed to do really good, and didn't because just nobody came, so... that's the only part that worries me is he doesn't have a very strong record opening movies on his name.
Well, I will say one other thing that I am a little concerned about. When I see the trailer for the movie, it says, you have to see this in 3D. This is the best movie ever to see in 3D. And I really hope that it's not just a bunch of special effects thrown in your face for 2 hours, that there's actually a good storyline. Instead of, oh, wow, I was blown away by... the graphics.
Well, 3D anymore is a post-production process. The reason why it works so well in Avatar was filmed from start to finish with 3D cameras. Yeah. It was filmed and staged and lit for 3D.
I was going to say, it was all in mind.
Yeah, it was that. There's a difference between immersive and subversive 3D. And subversive is, you could take, and I used to do this on the TV that's now Brandon's, was a 3D TV. And funny enough, the thing that looked the best in 3D was old 16-bit and up games because they had simpler color palettes, especially in 64 games. Because they did 800, in 64's native resolution was 800 by 600, which is the same as old computers. So it would look the best translating to 3D through the TV. Mm-hmm. Games made for 3D on PlayStation 3 didn't, because it was a post-production process. And... once you add all these complicated visuals that weren't designed or thought of for 3D, you can't really translate them well. And that's where I'm worried about for this movie that has a lot of visual effects. If they didn't go in thinking about that, then it's not going to look any better in 3D. And it's probably actually going to be very motion sick inducing.
Well, I hope that it's not. I hope that they live up to what they're saying about, watch it in 3D, you'll love it. I hope that they've thought about that.
I was going to say 3D in general just kills my eyes, so I couldn't do it regardless.
They did it poorly, but the movie, they did poorly, but Green Hornet worked in 3D because again they shot it for 3D. Yeah. Say what you will about the movie itself, but Green Lantern was shot for 3D. Problem was it was nauseating on its own.
I tried playing Arkham City on a 3D TV, and I'd say about 10 minutes in, I got a massive headache and I felt nauseous. And I'm not one who's prone to motion sickness or anything like that, but it was awful.
And see, neither am I, but I still have one of the first gen 3DSs, and I keep the 3D turned off because I can't stand it.
Yeah.
That is way better in the new 3DS. That's the one thing I'll give them that's an actual improvement. The motion-specific 3DS where it uses the camera to lock on to where you're at, and it adjusts for 3D, not you. That fixes a lot because it keeps it way more stable. That was always my problem with the first gen is if you did not stay perfectly still and you moved your head or you moved the unit a little bit, it would take so long for your eyes to readjust. That's where the motion sickness would come in. And it would just ruin whatever game you were trying to play.
No, my eyes are tearing up thinking about it.
Right.
Don't cry. It's okay.
Yeah. Don't cry. You're still a loser.
Oh.
Should be nicer to you, but it's just so fun not to be.
Have you guys seen the Wonder Woman trailer?
No, I didn't. I was going to get that added to the sheet, and I missed it.
Oh my god, it's so amazing!
They're really going to be doing justice.
Yes.
I want to see that.
It looks incredible.
Next summer.
I'm like, I can't wait.
It's gonna be good. It's certainly, she was probably the most intriguing character to come out of Batman v Superman.
Yeah.
I think she was the only intriguing thing to come out of that movie, personally.
Right.
Well, yeah.
Because everybody else was... Batfleck took it seriously enough to keep that going, but everybody else was just chewing the hell out of that movie. which in and of itself was funny to watch when we sat and watched it, but I'm glad I didn't pay theater prices to see that thing.
No, I agree. That was definitely a rental.
Right.
That was a red box night.
Shifting back to TV for a minute, and this is more for Brandon, because I feel like we owe equal time to Walking Dead since we covered the hell out of Fear the Walking Dead. The premiere, Brandon, what did you think? I think they got away with having their cake and eating it too.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because everybody knew it was going to be Glenn, and it kind of was, but he wasn't the eeny, meeny, miny, mo victim.
Right. They hopefully no one here actually was invested in this, so we just ruined it for him.
If you haven't,
if you haven't seen it by now, it's your fault.
What happened
no,
I
just mean like in the room. I just mean in the room
between the social media and everything. Then I can't help you.
Yeah,
you're not a fan if you don't at least know kind of what happened.
So maybe you should have started this with spoiler alert.
No.
That's exactly what he was just saying. If you haven't seen it by now,
right? It'd be different if we start talking about anything from this week's episode, this last episode, where there is a chance you haven't seen it because it's not being covered as heavy on Facebook.
But even then, there's not much that's like, ooh, spoilerific.
I haven't seen the most recent episode, so keep your mouth shut about it.
He is right.
About the season premiere.
They're following the same formula they've done for the last couple seasons. Big episode, filler, big episode. Mm-hmm. Which is why these shows are, and I think this is happening so that they don't get their own awards category, because when these shows were 5-6 episodes, they were always so cool because they couldn't have filler crap like this.
No, they didn't have time.
Right, and it was unfair to go up against a network show that's contracted for more episodes that has to have that filler, so you're not burning through your characters in 2 seasons.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of talk with like the Emmys and things like that they had their own category, and I think they're doing these filler heavy seasons to stave that off, because if you had to put all of those shows could only go up against each other, then it'd be a madhouse for who actually got nods. But no, I just wanted to bring it up because we didn't catch it. I had it on the sheet for the last show, and I wanted to get your opinion. You told me what happened. I periodically checked in. I've been out on that show since the second season, or really, in all fairness, the 3rd season.
Yeah.
So,
it was pretty cool. Like I said, it was like you were saying. They, how you were saying, what they got their cake and eating it too.
Right. Because
they set it up like you think it was just going to be this one character who gets offed, and then.
You really thought it was just going to be one?
Honestly, I wasn't sure. Like, at the same time, I should have expected it. And thinking back on it, I obviously, would have. But
I think as a viewer, you kind of, like, once it was over...
you're
in
the moment.
Of a sense of relief where it's like, okay, so no one else is going to die now.
You're in that moment.
But what I was saying is do you honestly think, like, over the summer waiting for it, did you really only think only one person was going to die in the episode?
Kinda, yeah.
They had more or less said that it was going to be crazy and ultra-violent, and I'm like, well, the only ultra-violent they really know how to do well anymore is people dying. Which, okay, fine, that's their go-to... Ratings are down. What do we do? Oh, let's kill this guy.
Kill
okay,
someone.
That's
I'm going to kill someone.
That's the mark of how uncompelling that show really is. And one of the topics we talked about earlier this week was, is the zombie? Well, we were restricting it to gaming, but I'm asking this in general: is the zombie craze over?
I hope so.
Walking Dead costumes didn't proliferate Halloween this year.
Did they ever?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they held out a lot longer than a TV show usually holds out for popular costumes or whatnot. Ratings are still down. I think only 17-something million people watched the premiere, which is way down for their premieres. They were only averaging 3 to 6 million viewers an episode over the last season. This last episode hovered around that mark. I mean, it's not the juggernaut it pretends to be anymore. And obviously, with the last real good zombie game that we decided was Last of Us, or not Last of Us, Dying Light, Fear the Walking Dead isn't really burning up the ratings like they thought it would. If it was on, if either of these shows were if Walking Dead was on regular TV, it could survive. If Fear the Walking Dead, for as much as it cost, was on regular TV, it'd be gone.
Oh, yeah.
It would have gotten 2 seasons and been done.
I feel like it should be gone already.
Yeah, especially.
I signed off on that show,
especially with the
after the first season. I just was,
and with the second season ending basically the same way the first one did. It was just meh.
Yeah.
So I wanted to bring that up before we got to the last of the movie news because it dawned on me and I realized it wasn't in the sheet. So, another funny thing, and we were talking about movies and grossing, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. Harry Potter movie. How many Harry Potter fans do we have in here?
Definitely.
Me.
Okay. So you have to talk because, it's a podcast. I know you can't talk as much. I was talking to everybody else. Because hands went up and I'm like, well, that's great. Nobody can see that.
Don't copy me.
But
Back in the classroom.
I was reading on MovieWeb.
But wait, at least is the teacher.
And it's trending to open at 75 million, which sounds high. And for any other movie out there, that would be high. But that's the lowest opener expected for any of the Potter films. And now the article I read was like, is it because it doesn't have Harry Potter in the name? I'm thinking, did this just take too long to get done?
Yeah. I think it's I think the name definitely does play into it, because not everyone is going to be a huge Potter fan and know every single fact, and not seeing it in the title could point them away.
Right.
They might not be aware.
No.
You could also point to the fact that the 7 Harry Potter movies, or 8, I should say, started off building immediately off of the book series. And now this book was kind of an addition, and people aren't following it quite as closely. And we're talking about the 8th Harry Potter movie had been so expected, and we knew it was coming. It was more of a build for it.
This started as a play, actually. Before it was a book, it was a play, and then it was the book, and then it was the movie, and they only got the nod to be a movie. I think it's going to be more than one movie, which is funny because it's only one book. In fact, I know it is because our next story is Johnny Depp's going to be in the sequel, but I think it's going to be 3 movies, maybe more. I don't know how out of, it's like how they got 3 movies out of The Hobbit, which is one of the smallest books in that universe, so they can do it if they try. But yeah, I thought that was interesting that you would consider $75 million bad. No matter how much you have in marketing and everything, that's still, because like we had talked about actually on the show earlier this week, movies don't make money in America. If China wanted to kill us or kill Hollywood, since they control every movie that comes into their country, they could just say, no American movies, 5 years. And really Hollywood needs that as a wake-up call, because not everything needs to be a CGI explosion fest. But that's a rant for another day. I'll probably say that for an episode of the bonus stage. But yeah, I just wondered if there was excitement from the people here who are existing Potter fans, or if you've aged past it, or if it's because it's not a Potter story, but just more of a prequel.
I'm very excited about it personally.
Likewise.
That's good. And then I found this and added it for last minute for you because you were a fan of the early film. There's going to be another XXX film, and they've actually brought back Vin Diesel, who this is the only way you talk for anything. Hi, hey, thanks for the birthday party, guys. Yeah, I was surprised. Couldn't you tell? Yeah, I'm not wrong.
You're not wrong.
Unless he's shouting as a plant.
The original XXX movie. I'm not gonna lie.
I did too. I mean, and the second one, I got what they were trying to do. I mean, you weren't going to make anything work when you didn't have the original actor.
That's true.
None of it worked.
Right, and there was such a tonal shift from being vaguely about extreme sports and stuff to being,
Was
Bad
it like
Boys
a spy
meets,
or something?
meets a spy movie. So
I just want to ride motorcycles and kill people.
right,
Give me back my family.
yeah.
Get
so
to the chopper.
the new trailer's out talking about him being back, and Samuel L. Jackson's in it, and they don't bury the lead that he's back. I was like, do you really need to show him in every second of the trailer?
Yes, because that's the only way that they're going to make any money.
Right.
Have you seen the last couple of movies he's tried to open? He doesn't make money anymore.
I was say it sounds like a Godzilla movie.
His
trying
most
to
successful
show.
movie was him running around shouting Groot. Come on.
I was say it sounds like what they did with the Godzilla movie, showing Bryan Cranston throughout it all, and he's in there for 20 minutes.
Well, yeah. Obviously, that's not going to be the case of him being in that short. But yeah, it's I hate to say it, but I'm like, I'm already over this, and I love it. But it's like, if that's their only selling point is, hey, this guy who can't act is back. And you got Samuel L. Jackson, I'm a badass too, but I'm your boss, so I can only talk about it.
I recognize this is a stupid decision.
Right. It's like, okay, this is exactly everything we need for this to be terrible.
All you needed was Vin Diesel. That's
Not
a
gonna
great
lie,
start.
I'm still not gonna miss it.
But,
I'm gonna catch it eventually.
I'll catch. Yeah, I'm not going to theaters for this. I mean, last movie we saw in theaters was Magnificent Seven, which is totally worth it. Chris Pratt, they let Chris Pratt be just Chris Pratt enough that you have those moments where he's like Star-Lord and he's like Andy from Parks and Rec, but then his like serious moments where you realize, because you know everybody in the team in one way or another, with the exception of one maybe, is basically an outlaw. So the moments where he's still showing you, oh yeah, I'm still kind of a bad guy too, definitely was a new direction for him, and it worked. Anyway, so that that's kind of all the regular topics I wanted to bring up this week. So again, we'll just start to my left, and we'll just go clockwise around here. So, kind of go a little more in depth, Vanessa, about or whoever's talking, you too, about the type of art you've got, what people can expect, where they can find it.
Well, Vanessa's going to be at the Toy Man show on Sunday, as well as the rest of the people from NerdsAtNite. So make sure to stop by and see her work. Vanessa's a painter, does all of her own work by hand with acrylics. She uses a lot of vivid colors and flowing colors. And she does both original pieces and fan art. She's currently got a Sally from Nightmare Before Christmas available, as well as a bunch of Pokemon. Now, if you mention the podcast while she's at the booth, she'll get you $5 off print. You can also follow her at Patreon, patreon.com/Vanessa Kifer, VANESSAKIFER.
And right now, I just started a new painting of Killua from Hunter x Hunter.
Okay.
Oh, cool.
Now, is all of your sold works prints, or do you actually sell the originals too?
I sell the originals as well.
Okay.
They will not be at the toy show, but if you're interested in an original, just tell me.
Now, do you do commissioned work as well, or is your works just whatever you choose to do, which is how some artists are?
I'll do both.
Okay. All right. Hey, that's a valid question, because there are some people who they paint what they want to paint, which is absolutely fine. That's why you're an artist. And they don't really like being limited and trying to figure out and putting the time and effort into what somebody else wants in a commission, and then get stiffed if it doesn't. If they were a cheapskate and didn't like what you did. So that's a pretty good, I think, clarification point. Okay, Zio, what do you got down there? What's the breakdown of your work? What's some of the rates? What's some of the things you like to do, don't like to do?
Like I said, I'm a photographer. Right now, I've really been interested in working with light and shadow. I just like how dramatic it looks. I have my prints up for sale on Facebook, and you can see my prints on Instagram as well. I'm also I will be at My Slart's monthly art show called 33. It's at the Old Orchard Gallery in Webster Groves. I'm also a volunteer with the organization as the event photographer. I do weddings, I do baby showers, I did a friend of mine turned 30 a couple months ago, and she did a cake smash, and it was her eating cupcakes and drinking wine. And we had a lot of fun with that. Right now, I've kind of gotten on this journey of messing around with light, and I'm just interested to see where it takes me. But if you want to see any of my stuff, like I said, it's Divine Exo Photography on Facebook, or you can follow me on Instagram at The Coolest Dork You Know. Yeah,
I know you did a photo shoot with Chari and Fireheart and a couple of their friends around their cosplay stuff. I know I've taken some of your, when you were doing the water and oil stuff, and I was taking some of your images to take and was running them through what little bit of artistic skill I have, messing around with GIMP to make texture panels out of them for created characters and other stuff. So it's a lot of great work, especially with the light and shadow stuff you've been doing recently. I've actually been really impressed with that. Now, for the gallery shows that you do, is there an admission for people to get in to see it, or?
No, not at all. It is free, and we are accepting submissions right now from artists as well. If you go to myslart.org, you can actually pull up the call for artists if you are an artist and you're interested. It's only $33 for you to if you get accepted. But yeah, it's free to the community. We have beer and wine and soda, and we also are catered by Highway 61 Roadhouse.
Okay. All right. Well, Brandon's got no skills, so Shireen.
Okay, I write fan fiction. I'm also working on an original piece, but mostly I write fan fiction. I am a big anime nerd, and particularly a Sailor Moon fan, and I actually have my own podcast that I do with my best friend, who's also a big Sailor Moon fan. And we both write and we role play, and we just have a lot of fun. I have taken an original character, which not everybody is always a fan of, and have taken and created a series that is now in its 9th installment. And I'm over 250,000 words in.
Wow.
And you actually have a really large reader base too. Like,
I have a fairly good and fairly widespread. I have some readers in the Philippines. I have a reader that tweets me regularly in Indonesia. I have some Spanish-speaking readers. Like, I know I have some demographics in Brazil and
Nice.
Argentina. So yeah, I have a little bit all over the place, which is amazingly cool. And I have some really good friends that are also some avid readers that I talk to all the time, from different parts of the country: Arizona, Ohio, Oklahoma, Iowa, all over the place. I feel really fortunate.
Obviously, you
in that
do,
respect.
from what we had mentioned before with Zeo stuff, you obviously do cosplay as well.
I do. I cosplay. I like to go to conventions. My cosplays this past season included my original character, Sailor Pluto, and Cinder from Ruby, as well as Yuki from Vampire Knight, and I made one appearance as Kiki from Kiki's Delivery Service. And then this coming season, I am going to be continuing to cosplay my OC Kyoko, as well as Sailor Uranus and Tuxedo Mask from Sailor Moon. Also, both with my best friend. She's going to be playing Sailor Neptune, and she's going to be playing Sailor Moon. And then when I cosplay as Kyoko, she's going to play Human Luna, because there's a lot of similarities in appearance. So we thought it would be fun.
Now, one last thing. What's the name of the podcast?
The name of the podcast, it sounds like kind of a mouthful. It's pronounced Atu Signo Senchi. It means that it stands for Soldier of Love and Justice.
Right.
It's AITO.
Or beef and broccoli.
Love and Justice. AITO SEIGINO. Shut up.
No.
SENSHI.
And all I was going to say is I'm going to get the links from all you people to put into descriptions so that nobody's got to remember any of this. I'm trying to be helpful. You just tell me to shut up. See how it is?
Well, that's what happens when you're married to you.
Right. Wait.
It's rude to interrupt.
Does that vaguely make it sound like this is my fault?
It is, though.
It is.
It is, though,
I feel
because it's rude to interrupt.
See?
No, it's my fault because I knocked her up. But anyway.
Oh.
It's not inaccurate.
You just got the look of murder is 2 inches from his face, by the way.
I feel like it's time for all of us to go.
No.
I think it's time for us to leave the crime scene.
And on that
I
note,
was just saying, and
so,
DJ will be found in a hole in the backyard.
Right.
yeah, she's going to get my 340-pound ass up the stairs. Good.
You know what?
Look
Hell hath
under
no
the
fury.
concrete slab.
Right. Yeah. I'm not in military school.
Stop quoting Christopher Titus. You're too old for that.
Elisa Ayres is the killer. Anyway, so once again, I want to thank everybody who joined us, and murder aside, this has been fun. Again, 2 of us, Vanessa and I, are going to be at the Toyman Show this Sunday, November 6th. It's at the Bridgeton Machinist Building, St. Charles Rock Road, right off the 270 exit between Target and U.S. Bank. $5 to get in if you're over 16. Cosplay welcome. Early bird for $12 at 8 o'clock. Everybody else is mission 9 o'clock. She'll be up in the artist alley. Check her out. She got her prints. I'll be down in the trenches selling all my used games and toys. Come visit us. Catman Games. Toys of Our Youth. If you visit Catman Games, ask them why they support dogfighting, and then just look at the look they give me because it's hilarious. They don't. don't want to say that.
That's terrible.
It was a running joke when I had to watch their booth for them once, and it took a little too long. I was joking. I was going to tell them that this booth supports dogfighting, so people would leave me alone.
Oh my goodness.
Which was also payback after they put a black mark X on the back of my head, which, in all fairness, I did to them first, so...
So it sounds like you have a lot of fun.
Right. It's you got to do things to keep your day going at that place, because it's 6 hours of standing around. Anyway, so for NerdsAtNite Gaming, Kid Thunder DJ,
Fire 47.
Dylan and Vanessa Kifer.
Rar Harley.
And Chari VonDilarizz.
all right, thank you for joining us. Good night.
Bye.